On today's show, Ryan Hanley is joining me. Ryan is a creator, strategist, keynote speaker, and founder and chief strategist of Hanley Media. Hanley Media is a boutique strategy firm that focuses on implementing leadership, marketing, and sales initiatives in organizations. Ryan helps individuals find meaning in their work and ultimately grow their business. Thank you for joining me today, Ryan.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here, man. Love having conversations like this. So I'm ready to rock.
Awesome. I always start off. So tell some of the listeners a little bit about yourself, how you got to where you are, and what do people know you by?
Yeah, I don't know where you are is probably an interesting question. I don't have in any way a traditional path, I guess you could say, and maybe for today's professional in their late 30s, early 40s, and probably a little younger, maybe I do have more of a traditional path, just not what we think of it. I've had 12 different jobs. I've been CEO, I've been a CMO, I've been a boots on the ground insurance producer. I've hawked spreadsheets around American Express. I was a consultant, an HR consultant for an accounting firm, one of the largest accounting firms in the world, actually, for like 5 years. So I've done a whole bunch of things. But ultimately, if I had to boil it down, my work, specifically probably the last 15 years or so, in various entities, has focused around helping people find meaning in the products, in the products they use, in the work they do, and ultimately using that and the skill of storytelling to grow their business. That is really probably what my expertise lies in. Whether it's been on the inside or currently I work, on the outside of organizations in more of a strategy, consulting, and keynote speaking role. That is what my work is centered around.
No, that's amazing. So how did you come around to be who you are for the last 15 years? So I know we spoke prior about your experience with Intuit and some of the other insurance jobs that you had, but how did you become this person?
Yeah, so I would say my career really started in 2006, 2007. I was working for American Express down in the financial district of Manhattan, and I hated every second of it. It was no real fault of American Express's. It was just spreadsheet work. It was terrible. I was just entry-level staff person, hawking a spreadsheet around, and I hated it. I was also living there with my then girlfriend, now wife, and she's also from the Albany, New York area, which is where we live today, where we raise our family, and where we're both from the region, not at Albany proper, but we're both from the region. So we decided that we wanted to move back home, that neither one of us were really doing well enough in Manhattan or had careers at that time that were engaging enough that we wanted to stay and kind of live that life down there. So we decided to move back to Albany. When I did that, I took a job for my father-in-law. And actually it's very funny. It's very similar to like something you'd see out of The Godfather. I think he knew the writing was on the wall that like I was going to propose to his daughter, and he didn't want his daughter to be married to a bum. So he, like at a Christmas party, he pulls me out of the party into, he owns an independent insurance agency. He pulls me into his study, which is like classic study, right? Like high leatherback chairs, that really shallow wall desk that no one actually can use is like completely uncomfortable. Like the whole, wood paneling, the whole thing. Nice. And he basically said like, I want you to come sell insurance for me at the agency. And I had never sold before. In fact, at that time, I kind of thought of sales as like a dirty job. Mm-hmm. Like, if you've never sold anything before in a traditional capacity, you just immediately think of like door-to-door life insurance salesman and like used car salesman, like that. Yeah. Just like this
perception,
this cliche comes to your mind of what a salesman really is. And over the course of the next 8 years, I learned two really valuable lessons. One, that is nothing about what a salesman really is, and what they're really trying to do. And two, I was really terrible at sales, in particular, at least the very traditional form of it. Like I hated interrupting people's lives. I hated it. So I'll just break down what our day was when I first started there. You'd come in the morning. You need to be at the office at 8 a.m. You did paperwork from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. From 9 a.m. to 4:30, you prospect commercial insurance. What that means is I would get into my car and I would drive around to local businesses, and I would literally walk into those businesses and try to get to the business owner. And then I would if I got to them, I would give them my business card and say, "Hi, my name is Ryan Hanley. I'm an insurance expert in the area. And if you're looking for a quote on your insurance, please give me a call," or some version of that. And then I would walk out. And it was miserable because they didn't want to talk to you. They hadn't asked for you to burst into their office or to disrupt their day. And they certainly didn't want to think about their insurance at that moment. And though most of them were polite, it was miserable. And no one ever called back. And I hated every second of it. So at 4:30, the whistle would blow. We'd all go home. You get 2 hours to be home. And then at 6:30, you needed to be back to the office, at which point you would cold call personal lines insurance, like home, auto, umbrella, stuff like that, until 9 o'clock at night. And when I say cold call, I mean literally open the phone book, point at a name, and start dialing. You want to talk about miserable work. Like cold calling out of a phone book is miserable. And people might say, well, what about the do not call list? We just didn't even worry about it at that time. Now, obviously, things are much, much different. But you just did it. And people picked up the phone and they'd be at dinner, and maybe 1 out of 100 would actually give you a chance. And it was essentially like every night just punching myself in the face 100 times a night. It was awful. And I was doing very, very poorly. And about a year and a half into the business, my father-in-law called me into his office and actually had to say, like, I'm not sure you're going to make it. And if you've ever had your father-in-law threaten to fire you from a job, that is really tough. It's just tough to swallow. So right around that time, though, and maybe this is just the serendipity of life, one of the things I did like to do was network. I liked to network. I like to meet people. I like to talk to people. I obviously can talk per our conversation thus far. You've asked one question. I'm still going. I did like to network, and I really liked the idea of referral relationships where, like, hey, I'm going to add value to your world by introducing someone I know to you. And in exchange, I'm hoping that you will do the same to me. I felt like, unlike me interrupting your life and hawking my insurance at you, a referral relationship, there was a really straightforward and dynamic value exchange, which I could wrap my head around. So, okay. So I walked into this networking event. Now we're talking 2008, 2009, somewhere around there. And as I walk in, there were two people that I wanted to have a referral relationship with. And I hadn't had a chance to meet them. I knew them from being in the area, but I hadn't had a chance to actually speak to them yet. So as I'm kind of working my way over to the group of people that they're talking in, I hear them talking to each other, and I catch the end of their conversation. And one was a woman, one was a man. She said to him, hey, let's just connect on LinkedIn. And then poof, they separated and left the conversation. I didn't have a LinkedIn at that point. I was, I don't think I had a Facebook account. I may have been on Twitter, but like I didn't have a natural propensity to social media. And when they said of all the things in 2009 that they could have used to connect further, hey, let's go have coffee on Monday. Hey, email me. Hey, call me. Hey, text me. I mean, there's all these different ways that they could have used to connect. She chose LinkedIn, and it blew my mind that she would choose LinkedIn. So I just said, I have to figure out why she would do that. That's when I dove into digital marketing and found out that I had a propensity for storytelling, for breaking down complex subjects into ways that people would be willing to consume online, and that I could do that. And then I could turn products like insurance, or I could create content around products like insurance in a way that people actually wanted to consume and educated them and helped them and was maybe slightly entertaining at times. And that changed the whole course of my career. I leveraged that experience, and then a lot of subsequent work after that completely changed my success in the insurance agency. And the day that I left, which was 8 years from the day that I started, I generated, we're talking a small single location independent insurance agency in upstate New York. We have 13 people still to this day. My wife is a part owner in the agency still. I was generating 90 inbound leads, 60 plus of which I would close. on a $150 a month budget. Now that would be more difficult today. The ecosystem is much different. It's much more saturated. Advertising rates are just higher today, but the same principles of SEO, which you work on, I leverage then, and the same principles of storytelling, adding value, that kind of stuff still apply. And that's every opportunity I've had subsequent has been because of that work that I did there.
That's amazing. I mean, that journey alone, right, reminds me of myself. And you probably don't know about my journey, but I did work as a salesperson, B2B, went door knocking. I did telemarketing. I was at Yellow Pages, actually. And I was the person who called and, because I was, trying to get ads, right? But that's a typical day as a B2B salesperson, right?
Yeah.
But I was there for 5 years and then I left, and that's how I started this company, actually.
And from the work that you do now for companies, when you can build a presence online and have a website or web properties that tell your story, that engage people, that draw them into what you're doing, not just your product, but also who you are, why you're doing it, these type of principles that are clear and concise and straightforward. The phone rings, you pick it up, and the people are already closed. I mean, that was my goal. I never wanted to have to sell again. I'm today, this far into my career, I'm very, very comfortable selling. I have absolutely no problem. And to a certain extent, I actually enjoy it. But my goal and the goal of anyone I work with or any company I work for is that when the phone rings, you're not selling. You're just facilitating a transaction. They're already sold. They've already done all the research. They've already done all the homework. And when they pick up that phone and call you, they do not want to have to call someone else. They want this to be the only call they make. And all they're trying to do is validate that what they saw online is what they actually hear in your voice and in the way you respond and in the things that you say. And then boom, they just want to do business. So that principle is maybe even more relevant today in a world where there's so many more disconnected messages trying to pull people away from something, and kind of the huck and spin method. That there's so much of that out there that, authentic, answering people's questions, telling stories about your business, client testimonials, that real boots on the ground, basic stuff. It's even more important today than it ever was before.
I totally agree with you on all those points, because inbound leads are by far the greatest. And unless you start advertising, unless you understand the whole reason why you should be advertising, and then putting together like a campaign or a funnel, or figuring out a strategy behind what is your end purpose and audience and goal in mind, right? Once you figure that out and you start getting the quality leads that you're anticipating with the ideal demographics and audience that you're trying to go after, calling you, wanting your service, I mean, it's the best feeling in the world, right?
Yeah.
But the challenge is a lot of people still don't understand this whole world.
Well,
right?
I don't know that it's that they don't understand it as much as they're just completely unwilling to put the time in. They don't want to put the time in. Like when you tell someone, hey, before this campaign is really cranking, it might be 6 months, 9 months, a year. They're like, nah, I'll just put a couple $1,000 into Google ads and answer those calls. Now, what's interesting is Rand Fishkin just pushed out a study, which I don't think he actually did, but I saw his synopsis of it, which was a couple SEOs had done some studies around removing paid branded ads from search and seeing what happens. And when people skip the paid ads and go through to your actual website, like an organic click, I guess, for those who may not understand the vernacular, that yes, your total sales would go down slightly, but your conversion rate goes way up. Yep. And the reason that that's important is because that time that you're not spending churning and burning through inbound leads that have little to no value can be spent in other places, can be spent spending more content, which ultimately increases your pie of inbound opportunities. So there seems to be a growing body of research that while paid ads are a very important part of any campaign, we can't lose sight of organic inbound traffic and the power that inbound leads have in growing a business.
I totally agree. Just so some of the audience knows, Rand Fishkin was the president CEO of Moz, and right now he owns a company called SparkToro, which is more of the social end of things. And he's been a big influencer in terms of the SEO world. And then in terms of like, I am a true believer in organic. I'm a true believer of inbound. And again, I'm not a really strong believer in marketing campaigns, but I understand there's a place for it, right? Especially if you have a new product line, service, and trying to build a funnel, right? If you have a big sales team, etc. But the quality of leads, conversion rate, higher price per conversion, higher price per cost of a client, it's definitely more, as opposed to if you're trying to bring everything in-house with content, producing your own videos, producing way better infographics or whatever it is, material. With studies, it gives you way more return if amplified correctly.
Yeah. One of the things, and again, I'm going to, you read so many things I can never remember, but I was reading another study around product upgrades. So if you have a standard product and then you have an upgraded version of that product, inbound organic leads have a much higher conversion rate on the upgraded or premium version of your product than any paid ads. So if you run, just for people to understand, you run a paid ad. I'll give you an example in the insurance space because that's where I've spent so much of my career. So just to finish my actual story so people know where I'm coming from, I was a chief marketing officer after I left my wife's family's agency. And the reason I left, just if this is interesting, it's mostly just I had gotten to the point in my marketing career where I just wanted to play a slightly bigger game. I had been doing it for a single location business for so long. I wanted to see if my skills translated to a larger platform. So I became the chief marketing officer for 2 different insurance technology companies. And then most recently I took the job as a CEO of a fitness organization. It was more of just like an acting CEO role. And now I'm back to running my own marketing agency. So where was I going? Oh, so like in insurance space, what we might say is if you're driving ads and those ads are for a home insurance product, right? And people click through and they want the home insurance product. Well, in the insurance space, a single line of insurance it's really tough to be profitable on a single line. You're doing the same amount of ad spend for a limited amount of revenue. Now, on ad spend, you're most likely only going to convert that single line if you're doing ads. But on inbound and organic traffic, inbound leads through organic traffic, you're much more likely, if they come in on a page that talks about home insurance, to then also be able to sell them an auto insurance policy or like an umbrella policy as well. So now you have 3 policies. So just in terms of what that means, home insurance policy by itself, you have about a 30% chance of retaining that business after 1 year. You add an auto insurance policy, you have about a 70% chance of retaining that business. If you add a third policy, life insurance or umbrella or boat or any third policy, the chance of retaining that business over the next year goes up to 94%. So it is in your best interest to sell less monoline policies and more package policies because your retention is better and your profitability versus advertising spend is better. So that's an insurance example, but I've seen, and I'm sure you have as well, that type of result transcends just about every industry. I think the key point there is the stickiness factor and lifetime value of a customer, right? So where do you want to spend most of your efforts? However, I understand like people are attracted about rates, right? So you do a promo or whatever, you get them hooked on one of your packages, then you try to upsell, you try to have them in multiple areas in your life. And then, of course, you want to keep them there for a lifetime, and hopefully they refer to other family members, friends, etc. Yeah.
So, those are really good points. So, aside from this industry, I wanted to talk more about how you started your own gig from, the transition after the CMO, CEO position to your own company.
Yeah. So I actually, how the timeline actually worked was when I decided to leave the agency, I started my own insurance agency. I decided to start my own marketing strategy company, Hanley Media, which is the company I operate now. So I did that for about 5 months. And then one of my clients offered me the CMO role. So I wanted that. So I took it. And then the Hanley Media was basically the company that I operated my speaking business. So I've been a paid speaker for about 10 years now. And so the Hanley Media operated as kind of a substructure of my role as a CMO. And then when I left that company, I then took up a couple consulting clients again. One of those consulting clients hired me to be the CMO of that company. Did that for a period. When that work was done, left there, went back. So it is operated as the substructure of really of my life for the last 6+ years. And it's always been the brand in which I've marketed my my speaking and workshop services.
Okay.
And anytime, I've kind of decided to leave a project and move on, I've taken on new clients through that brand. And the last 3 times I've done that, one of those clients has hired me for a project. So the most recent one being kind of an acting CEO role. I ran a local fitness enterprise until the founder was able to transition out of what he was doing on a local level to the larger corporate entity. And then I transitioned that back to him, and that's where I am today. So it's weird. I've kind of been, I don't know that it's the best moniker, but to a certain extent, I've been like a marketing and I guess chief executive for hire to a certain extent. Like I've come in and worked almost on an acting basis for a while as companies have gone through different transition periods. And I guess a lot of that has to do, I would like to believe, on my ability to manage teams. I can talk the talk. Obviously, I understand how marketing works very well, and as well as like running full enterprises. And it's just, for whatever reason, it seems like that's been my role, has been like the last 2 companies I've with, basically they were both project executive positions. One was about 8 months, one was 9 months. And both kind of, hey, project's over. Have a nice day. Wish you the best. If you ever need more help, I'll be here. And I just kept moving on. So it's been interesting. Like I would have never guessed that would be a role of mine, but I guess I kind of can slip in and out of an organization fairly easily and not blow things up, at least not yet.
That's amazing. So did you ever like grow up thinking you wanted to kind of be your own boss or run your own kind of company? Or were there people that kind of pushed you or inspired you to become this?
So that's a really interesting question. I actually wrote a LinkedIn post about this, or not LinkedIn post, doesn't matter. Something on social media about this one time. I almost feel like college derailed my entrepreneurial efforts. And I don't mean that in like the don't go to college way, because I had a friggin' blast at college and I have no problems with it. I certainly wouldn't pay, nor do I have any intention of paying the prices today for my kids. But, because it certainly wasn't worth that amount of money, but the value proposition when I went to college was reasonable, much more reasonable than it is now. But I do think, so I'll give you a little bit of my background. I grew up in a very blue collar area, probably, I don't mean this to sound bad, but it was probably much closer to lower middle class, or like this was not a tremendously vibrant area. There's only 1,000 people in my town. People used to say the criminals don't steal from other people in Nassau. They live in Nassau. So, it wasn't a place that I really enjoyed growing up. And when I was growing up, the only thing I could ever think about was, I never want to come back to this. Like, I don't want this to be my life. Like, I love my parents. I love my mom. She actually still lives there. I don't know why, but like, I don't want this to be my life. So early on, that was like a lot of entrepreneurial stuff. So like, I wrote this post called something about, I used to go bottle hunting. So like at 12 years old, I would wake up at 3:30 in the morning and I would go walk the streets of my town and collect recyclable bottles out of blue bins and trash bags. And I would make about $30 to $40 every week. And that would be my pocket money, was this bottle money. And I did snow shoveling and all the kind of classic kid entrepreneurial stuff. I did that. Yeah. And then, like I started to get to an age where, and I always got good grades in school. So like I started to get to an age where my teachers started to ask me like, well, hey, have you thought about college? Because no one in my family had ever gone to college before me. I'm the first one. So I had said no. I mean, I had no idea what I was going to do. I just knew I didn't want to live in that place. But college wasn't something that my parents pushed me towards. Like nothing. It wasn't really an option. I mean, it wasn't something I'd considered. And when I started learning about what it was and what it could do for me and how basically I got it in my head that if I go to college, I never have to live in that place ever again. That was all I could think about. And I stopped thinking entrepreneur and I started thinking, well, geez, if I can just get a job with a big company, if I can just get a degree and get a job with a big company, I'll be set. I'll be good. You know what I mean? Everything will be fine. So I went to college to become a mechanical engineer. About a year and a semester into that life, I decided mechanical engineering was not for Ryan at all. I had like a 2.4 GPA. I was doing terribly. That was basically because if you want to so I was a baseball player. I was part of a fraternity, which was basically just the baseball team. And I had to choose between kind of baseball, booze, and chasing women or mechanical engineering. And at 19, that was a really easy decision for me to make. So mechanical engineering dropped. I ended up graduating with a math degree. But, that was just any entrepreneurial thought was, it was never, my parents weren't entrepreneurial. They were, one kind of worked in the union as a laborer. The other was a secretary. It was never part of my life. And then when I figured out that if I went to college, I could get a job with a big company and be all set, that was the only thing I thought about. And then when I got out of college, I did that. And I realized that I had just signed up for a prison sentence. And I hated every single second of being part of these machines. And there's nothing against that. Like, the machines have to run and they do good work. And there are people who enjoy that. Like, I have buddies who push Excel spreadsheets all day long and they're happy. They're part of softball leagues. They, you know what I mean? Like, they do all this stuff. They go skiing all the time. They take 4 vacations a year because that's how many weeks vacation they've earned. And that's great. And when they get home at night, they flip a switch and they never think about work again. And that's just not who I am. So that work was terrible. And it took until I got into the insurance agency. And even though I was working for my father-in-law, as a salesperson, even though you're working for a bigger company selling their product, it's a straight commission sales job is a very entrepreneurial endeavor. You have to gimmick and scheme and scratch and scrape and fight and do everything you possibly can to make money. And that's what kind of got my juices cooking. And then from there, now into my late 30s, now I feel very entrepreneurial. Now I own my own company and run my own business and have for a few years now, and found a odd niche, I guess, to a certain extent. But I guess that was a very long-winded way of saying no. I haven't always been an entrepreneur.
Yeah, all these points of I love it because it's not easy, right? People who are thinking of starting their own business or they have this dream of being their own boss. I mean, people that have never even done what you did, early on. I was a newspaper boy, right? At 9, I've worked 30 different jobs. I've had so many different managers. And sales, like you mentioned, when it's commission only, you're there working 80 to 100 hours to make sure you get paid, right? To pay rent and food and shelter and all that stuff. People don't realize that, right? So when you have that experience and then you start your business, you are way much further ahead and your success level is a lot higher than someone that's just has an idea, that has no idea what a business actually means, right? And someone that has sales experience has a way to really explain their product and services to people, right? In which people will then buy their product, right?
If I could give anyone advice who has never had a sales job, go get a sales job for a year. Just do it. Yeah. Like, especially if you're early in your life and you're not 100% sure, even if it's a shitty sales job, just go get one and live it. Just understand what it feels like to be told no and have people just avoid you and not pick up your calls and not pick up your texts. And like, you'll walk into a networking event and they'll avoid you because they know that you want to talk. Like, experience all those things, because to me, the one skill that, I guess that, I'll put it this way. The one skill that every company needs and wants is the ability to sell. I don't care what happens with the internet. I don't care how automated the internet gets. I don't care how many sales funnel, marketing, copy, things are produced and how many people have these big, long sales pages. And it doesn't matter. Humans still sell things. And that skill is incredibly valuable. People will pay. There are executives who are willingly pay their salespeople more than they pay themselves because their salespeople are so valuable to a company. And even if you don't love selling or you don't want to make it your career, have that experience, whether it's in high school or it's in college or it's your first job. Just live that life for a while. And then go, if you hate it and you're miserable, then go work for the state or go work for some association or nonprofit and show up every day, punch the clock, check out in the afternoon and go, and that's your life. Like that's fine. But if you want a skill that transfers to every industry, every role, internal or external, it's sales. And part of that for me is selling online and offline. I think both are very important. But that skill to me, and when what comes out of it, right? There's so many soft skills that you have to be good at sales that then are transferable to now I use those skills in my leadership capacities. Whether if I'm somewhere below the top of the chain and I need to work up and work down, or if I'm at the top and I'm just working down, or you're working with maybe a board of directors, so you're working sideways. I mean, all the various soft skill and relationship management techniques and just attributes that you need to have, I've learned through selling. So I couldn't recommend it more as a skill for people to develop. I think people shy away from it. You only are a huckster if you're a huckster. You don't have to be that thing.
Exactly. No, these are all awesome points, because I don't tell people about me being like, I've been doing sales for 20 plus years, right? And for me, it just comes natural. I don't even feel like I'm doing it. And I really genuinely want to build a relationship, right? Like care, listen, like all these soft skills of actually like, you learn in sales, right? Like when you get hung up 100 times a day, or walk into storefronts and they slam the door in your face, or shred up your business card, you build a very thick skin, right? And it's fine. Like it's fine. Even myself, people solicit to you, right? And now I get it, right? People have to make a living. It's a part of it, right? But yeah, these skills in sales, but the challenge is schooling doesn't teach sales.
Yeah.
Right. There's no sales course in school, yet it's probably the most sought after job that it pays the most. It's always compensated the most, because if you have the ability to connect with clients and build that long-term relationship, I mean, people will pay you a fortune, or pay you a lot more than they earn, right?
Yeah. If I were going to so in high school, you don't learn anything of value outside of how to socialize. You really don't. You learn kind of what you're interested in. Maybe you get an idea for what you're interested in, but basically it's just a socializing mechanism. I mean, none of those skills are transferable in almost any regard in the vast majority of high schools, especially public high schools. I live in New York. Public high schools are supposedly great, but I find them to be lackluster. That being said, college is almost worse because now you're actually paying for it. The skills I think that come out of college are read a lot. I mean, if I could do it again, I would read as many great books as I possibly could. It's an opportunity to read a ton and copywriting skills, skills in economics, those kind of things. Like those are skills that are really going to help you unless you're in one of the STEM fields. And even then, I think having some part of STEM in your life, so that's science, technology, engineering, math. And I actually read the other day that it shouldn't be just STEM, it should be STEAM. So science, technology, engineering, art, and math. And I would even agree with that. So if you can get some piece of one of those STEAM fields with some economics, some basic fundamental economic principles and copywriting or writing skills, that's all you really need to do. You take those skills into the world, and then it's just how hard do you want to work. Everything else is kind of nonsense. If you want to become a lawyer, yeah, you got to go that route. If you want to become a doctor, I don't know why anyone would want to be either one of those things. So God bless anyone who chooses those paths. I just think that's how I frame it. Like you got to have these basic writing skills, basic understanding of mathematics and some economics, just because once you get into actual business, like beyond the fluffy shit that so many people talk about and like online, like once you get into actually looking, how do you build a Google sheet to project your earnings based on certain, financial changes or certain product changes or different launches or when you're going to hire, and how do you map that out? Like, those are kind of the basic economic principles, which are incredibly valuable. Although you could listen to Naval Ravikant's podcast and learn all of that for free in about 4 hours. So, I think they're good socialization mechanisms, but they don't solve the problems that they did in the 50s, 60s, and 70s for people.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, so over the years, did you have to obtain any coaches, mentors, or attend mastermind classes, or was it all self-taught, or did you have some person?
A lot of self-teaching. I read a ton. So mentors, Seth Godin, Ryan Holiday, all these guys. Read a lot of stuff around. I just read a ton of books. I just finished Ryan Holiday's new Stillness is the Key. That's tremendous. I'm reading Mastery by Robert Greene right now. I just reread Purple Cow again just to do it because you can plow through that.
I'm going to an event with Seth this Saturday. So.
Oh, I'm very jealous. I've never seen him live. It's like one of the things I definitely need to do that. But so yeah, I do that. But then I've met. I don't have an actual mentor, but I have some peers in various industries, both marketing, insurance, and just business in general, who have been incredibly valuable. Incredibly valuable doesn't even begin to describe what some of these relationships have meant. And I've just acquired them over time from, you put yourself out into the world, you connect with people, you start to get to know them, you realize that they have some insights that you don't have, but are very good, solid people, and you go back and forth, and I have definitely a group of people, and most of them aren't even connected. It's not like there's 5 of us and we talk. It's like I have this person from this world and this person from this world and this person over here, and then the other one is probably my wife. My wife is very different from me in that I tend to be much more creative, much more. Maybe that's just the best way to describe it. I tend to be less strict and to disciplines than she is. And she's the exact opposite. She's very, you do this on this day, this way. But we're understanding of each other. That's taken a while to get there. I won't say that was always easy, but marriage in general is not. But we have a tremendous partnership in addition to our marriage, and she has helped me work through a lot of problems, a lot of if I tend to get emotional about certain things, and she helps me kind of woosah and come back and think through it and then address the problem in a very healthy and productive way. And having a partner like that who sleeps in the same bed as you is very advantageous.
Yeah, definitely. All these points about self-taught or reading books, I go to the gym early, so I have this app called Blinkist, which is a summary of audiobooks, right?
Yeah.
And I go through, I think I've already gone through like 200 or 300 of them in the last month, right? Which, yeah, it's a summary, but it gives you the bullet points, right? And then there's obviously for me, audiobooks are a lot easier for me just because I'm on the go all the time, like traveling and stuff. But whatever works, right? Like you can listen to podcasts, you can watch videos, and there's so much information now that is at your disposal that's free, right?
Yeah.
Like before, you would have to buy books or go to conferences and then learn by getting a mentor or a coach or joining a mastermind group, right? And that cost and that barrier to entry was so high, right? For a lot of young entrepreneurs. So today, like if you're willing to learn and really, understand what is out there, I mean, there's so much more value today than before, right? Just because there's so much information out there.
I definitely don't want to kind of poo-poo masterminds or mentors or conferences, because I do think all three of those things, especially conferences, I think breathing the same air as someone is very important. I love that, so 5 years ago when I would do a podcast, we wouldn't have this, right? There would just be a Skype screen with your initials on it. Well, now we get to see each other and engage, and that really adds something to the podcast. But if we were breathing the same air, there would be even more dynamism to this conversation. And I think conferences swung a little too far to one side for a while. And then I think they swung a little bit too far to the, hey, you shouldn't go to conferences. And I think what we're starting to find is a really nice mix where, should you be going to a conference every month? No, that's probably not in your best interest. But having a handful of conferences that you can go to bump into people who you can learn from and engage with, specifically if they're people who maybe don't think about things the same way or have different experiences or from other parts of the country or the world, like those are very important experiences. And I didn't always realize that. I didn't go to my first insurance conference until I'd been in the industry for 4 years. And then I came back. It was actually my first speaking gig. I had been writing and creating online, and someone reached out to me and said, hey, we'd love to have you come talk about what you're doing at our conference. And I was there and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like there's all these people running insurance businesses in a different way. And hey, I could bring this back to my agency and this back. And that, so I do think those are valuable experiences. There's a trade-off either way, right? The way that I tend to go just takes more of my time and energy and thought. Like I need to, pick the books that I read, the podcasts that I listen to. Like I have to figure all that stuff out. If you're part of a mastermind or have a mentor, they can kind of guide you there. And I think there are trade-offs to either one. Yeah. You have to figure out which is the best for you personally. But I do think that availability has only been a net positive to the world. I know a lot of people want to act like, well, there's a lot of crappy content out there, but yeah, no one listens to that. That's the thing is, yes, there are 750,000 podcasts, but it's 80-20. And, that might make it more difficult for someone who's starting out, but it also means that there's opportunity. And if your content is good and your quality is good and you persist, that will increase. It also means that, the stuff that isn't good, people aren't going to listen to, and it's going to fall off the charts. And, that's just kind of the nature of things.
Exactly. So, so far running your business, can you tell some of the listeners about some of the challenges or setbacks or mistakes that you've kind of made, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, I say early on, my biggest mistake was I underbilled everything. I used to do speaking gigs for way less than I should have been charging. Let's just put it that way. And someone said to me, like, if they're willing to pay you X, they're willing to pay you X plus 1,000. So why are you charging X? And again, that's kind of generic advice, but the idea is, I think most of us, especially early on, and I am very, very guilty of this, where I want to deliver value. I want to be a great partner. So you undercharge. And though I strongly recommend or advocate against, kind of over-promising, I do think that you have to set your value and then meet that value. Don't reduce your value because you're worried someone's not going to buy it. you got to sell yourself and your product, and that comes with the job. But I think far too often early in our entrepreneurial careers, we underestimate the value that we're providing to people and the knowledge and experience we have. And that makes it hard to run a business. And the goal is to get to escape velocity, get to the point where you can operate and choose the projects you want to work on, not just take every project that comes down the pipeline because you have to pay the bills. That's not an easy thing to do, but that's the goal, because then you can do your best work. It's very hard to do your best work and be happy and feel fulfilled and have your work have meaning when you have to take every friggin' job that comes in because you gotta make rent. That's tough. So
that's exactly what I did early on. I took every job, and I learned. I priced, but it's like running a business, right? There's always going to be challenges, right? And it was a mistake. However, I also thought that I also got a lot of exposure and testimonials, and I figured out those aren't my clients. Those aren't my tribe, right? Not my ideal customers. However, I got to experience that, right? And learn that I'm now going to switch up and focus on this kind of niche and vertical, right? So, like in terms of mistakes, I always look at it like pricing. Even now, like it's always a struggle, right? How do you want to price your service and product? And will they go for you versus your competitors? And what are you bringing to the table that's a little bit different, right? Yeah. So it's always a battle, but stay true to it, especially if you've been in it for a while and you know what kind of results you can deliver for your clients.
Yeah. I think it's actually funny. I actually saw a quote from Victoria Holt this morning, and it was never regret. If it's good, it's wonderful. If it's bad, it's experience. You know what I mean? So like, I'm with you. You're going to underprice your services and you're going to hate yourself for doing it, but it's part of the process. We've all done it, I guess is probably a better way to put that. Exactly. Right? Like it's just the way that it is. You're going to get on an airplane someday and you're going to go, oh my God, I'm getting on an airplane for this amount of money. Like, what am I doing? Like, why am I doing this?
And especially
but you're going to do it anyways.
Exactly. So early on, I mean, you take everything, right? But as you mature, you get growing your business, the value of time, and you have other commitments, right? Then you value, it's like, should I be taking this job or this trip or speaking gig or whatever it may be over spending time with my family, right? Yeah. Or whatever it is. So tell us, I know technology has kind of changed over the years, right? Software, hardware, whatever it may be. How has that evolved in your business? And how have you utilized it to your advantage?
I'll tell you that outside of just the capabilities of a cell phone improving, I don't know that I use technology that much differently. I mean, all the tools have improved. Just like I said about recording this podcast, now you get to see people in person, and this same thing would have buffered 27,000 times, before. So now, I mean, that's improved. Since most of my work is strategy and storytelling, I don't necessarily use a tremendous amount of tools. I mean, this is the same podcast mic I used in 2011 that I'm listening to right now. It's an Audio Technica AT2020, which you can still buy on Amazon for like $60 or $90, something like that. I've been using this thing for 10 years. It works great. I'm using a webcam for this video. I will say that the technology on the cell phone has greatly improved your ability to share and be in front of people. I am a proponent of like Gary Vee's volume philosophy that he has. You need to be putting stuff out in the world. I think far too often, and this is, again, I don't mean I'm going back tactical, but like, I think far too often we feel like that one piece of content, we have to get that out and it's got to be perfect. And it's like 20% of the people that you're connected to are going to see that thing. Like you need to do that 17 times, in a day, because you're just not going to reach everybody. And I'm as guilty of that as anybody, but I think utilizing the phone, some of the apps for creating, whether it's a graphic or whatever, and just getting that out into the world, as long as it matches your voice and the story you're trying to tell and the audience you're trying to attract. But like, That has definitely improved drastically. Helping some of my clients capture video. Some of the tools like the Adobe Suite has drastically improved. I use that quite a bit. The ability to collaborate on the Adobe Suite with my clients, dive into their projects and work remotely with them in real time and talk through different things that they're doing there. But yeah, man, I mean, I use a DSLR camera. I got a MacBook Air that I rock, my cell phone, pretty basic tools from a technology standpoint.
No, I mean, whatever works for you, just stick with it, right? And
yeah,
the challenge of a lot of these entrepreneurs and business owners are they actually overspend. They think they need the biggest, greatest, newest technology. They overspend, spend tens of thousands of dollars on the newest camera, mic, whatever, studio, rental space, whatever, and they don't even have a single client, right?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, you think, why is there such a failure rate in terms of entrepreneurs or business owners, right? Like, focus on what really will generate revenue, which is sales and marketing, or getting in front of your potential customers and offer a service that people actually need and want and pay for, right? And figure out that.
Go back and look at the first episode of the Joe Rogan Experience. Go back and look at the first episode of Gary Vaynerchuk's Wine Library. Yeah. Go back, you want to look at a real world example, go look at my YouTube channel and look at the videos I was doing early on in my insurance career. They're terrible, but they have hundreds of views and have generated thousands upon thousands of dollars in speaking gigs for me, hundreds of thousands. So it's like I think people are willing to give you an evolution as long as they see you're committed to continually improving the value. Exactly. They're completely okay with you not being amazing at first. Like, this is my kitchen, right? I have an office downstairs. It's just nice out, and I live in upstate New York, and we're not going to get many more of these days. You live in Toronto. So, I just want it to be, while it's light out and nice, I want to be upstairs. So I'm sitting in my kitchen. Like I could be downstairs in my office where I got all my cool books and my signs behind me, and I was just like, screw it. You know what I mean? Like, this is where I'm more comfortable today, so this is where I'm going to do it from. I didn't even put any gel in my hair. Like,
at least you got here.
Yeah, but I guess that's my point is, like, I think people are okay. Now, it can't be terrible, and it can't look like you don't care. Like, I think that's the barrier. Like, you have to care. But you can use your cell phone, just have a tripod, you know what I mean? Or if you're going to do a handheld selfie video, like, put a little thought into what you're going to say before you turn the camera on. So even though it's a selfie video, it still is a well thought out message, and that's really what I think people are interested in. I do think production quality helps. I do think it does, but you have to have a great message, and it has to serve a purpose. Like, it has to serve a purpose. So, just a boring podcast in a great studio is a boring podcast.
The content itself, right? And the message, right? So I totally agree, because end of the day, you need to be producing stuff on a consistent basis, because you don't know how and when people are going to ingest that information. There's so much, stuff going on in your life, right? And in everyone's life. So the big thing is just continue and keep it consistent, right? Because the key is, hopefully people will slowly adopt and check you out, right? But again, a lot of people kind of give up, right? And this is business, right? Like, a lot of entrepreneurs kind of give up. Once they see there's no results, they kind of give up.
Yeah, once the sexiness of telling everyone, right? You're an entrepreneur wears off. You know what I mean? That's what it is. I don't tell, people, I don't tell people I'm an entrepreneur because I don't really feel like I am. I'm definitely a business guy. I definitely love business. I love people. I love growing things. But, like, I don't know. Like, am I an entrepreneur? Maybe. I mean, I own my own business. I started it. I run a business. I don't know. Like, I don't need that moniker for anything. It doesn't mean anything to me. Like, I think what happens is people want to walk around New York City calling themselves an entrepreneur because it helps them get dates. You know what I mean? It helps them get dates. They get dates from doing that. Hey, look, I'm an entrepreneur. Oh, you got a new app? Oh, I'll go on a date with you. Great. I don't know that it actually, and once that wears off, I don't know that they actually enjoy the business they're creating. They just want it to be that thing. And that's a big problem. I would suggest that everybody who hasn't yet, when they're finished listening to this, go and they've subscribed and all the things that you should do to this podcast, go Google the compound effect and just read what that is. That is all you need to know is the compounding effect and what that means. Go read about it, go learn about it, understand it. It works every time in every business. It takes longer in some businesses and for some people than it does for others, but it works over time. Yeah. And so that's just be my recommendation there.
Yeah, these are all so good points because, you're speaking from your personal experience and I've lived pretty much everything what you've talked about, right? Because as a business owner myself, I mean, the struggles, the challenges, the advice, and I'm just in a happier space today because I'm enjoying our conversation because I'm able to connect with others that are like-minded in different parts of the world. And this technology didn't even exist before, right?
Yeah.
So the value that we're kind of bringing into this whole ecosystem is there's a lot of like-minded people in the world. Go out and, present yourself out there and hopefully people will either connect with you or not, right? But at least I'm making an effort to connect. Without that, nothing will ever happen, right? Yeah. I'm doing something about it, right?
Completely agree.
So in terms of what drives you today, so, I know you have a family now and, tell us a little bit more.
So it's a combination. I mean, I'm still very ambitious. I still have goals that I want to achieve. I love helping people. I'm very caught up on this idea of legacy and what that means. Not just the kind of pure like Webster's dictionary version of it, but how do I help organizations and individuals build their own legacy, the one that they want, and I think that I'm working on this. It's a thesis I have around a mental model or construct that can help people think, work towards the long game, compounding, that I made that I was kind of tongue in cheek before, but it's one of the key aspects of playing the long game. And far too often I see, people in job, straight jobs for big companies, as well as, startups, entrepreneurs to leaders, just thinking way too short term. And they make decisions that they regret or that aren't in the best interest of their business or that limit their ability to adapt and maneuver and grow as market changes. And they're just thinking very short term. So a lot of my work moving forward is going to be helping businesses with this idea of legacy, and whether that's the actual terminology that I use or not, that's what's in my head right now. Hopefully I'll be out on the speaking circuit and have some gigs that I'm starting to line up now, and that'll pick up again in the spring and in the winter a little bit. So be out on the scene there, and that's about it.
So aside from business, I know there's other pillars in life, right?
Oh yeah.
Like family, health, community. What are the main ones that you're kind of?
It's probably my family is my biggest one. I enjoy my community, but I'm not a huge community guy as far as that goes. I spend a lot of time with my kids. I got 2 boys. I got a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. They're both in school. So at 3:00 today, my day will be over. I'll drive to their school, pick them up. We'll play, hang out. Mom will come home. We'll have dinner. You know what I mean? I just love that. I love coaching their teams. I've coached every team that my older son has been on. My younger son just hasn't been old enough yet. And I love being part of that. I love being part of their lives. So I guess one of the things that's very important to me in owning my own business, and I will probably give up upside in my maybe financial life in exchange for being able to pick those kids up from school as much as I possibly can.
I totally relate, man. And this is the privilege or pleasure of being your own boss, right? As a business owner, you can actually tap out and say, look, I turn off my phone or whatever and say, this is me and family time. Right?
Yeah. And that's the stuff that you remember. I've done close to 200 keynote speaking gigs in my entire life. I could probably tell you the details of one or two of them, but I can tell you amazing moments that I've had with my kids in Florida and in Maine and in trips to the zoo and in trips to the park. I mean, I remember all that stuff because that's the stuff that's really meaningful to me. Like, I love being a dad. I enjoy at times being a husband, and you know, mostly just because I'm not that good at it. I get in trouble a lot, but no, I'm joking. I've been very blessed. I have it, like I said, I have a great partner and spouse and my wife, Lauren. I'm very blessed. I've watched a lot of relationships fall apart. We've done some really hard work to get to where we are and stay together, and we're very happy. And I feel blessed for that. I feel blessed to have two happy kids, two healthy kids, and who are pretty fun to be around. Neither one of them are little pricks. You know what I mean? They're pretty fun kids to hang out with. So I like that. And I just don't want to trade that for someone else. Yeah. You got to make money. You have to feel fulfilled in work. You know, responsibility yields meaning yields happiness. But you can't, but I never want to be on an airplane, like thinking I'm missing something at home. I just don't want to do that. Yeah. It's inevitable to a certain extent, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's great to hear that life is not just business, right? And as an entrepreneur or business owner, that's how life should be. Like, you have to really understand why you're doing what you're doing and have passion and fulfill that purpose, right? And if family is a strong pillar, focus on that and don't lose sight on it and be present, right, with your family always. Same with your business, right? Like, I understand that's probably what pays the bills, but it also means, like, be present when you're working, but also, yeah, what's more important? Like, I schedule all my family stuff first, and business will come afterwards. Always, yeah. Right?
Well, here's the thing: is like, if like, I think a lot of people are like, oh, you know, it's tough to really, like, one, not every business is going to be, you know, Disney or Coca-Cola or Apple or Google or Facebook. And not every entrepreneur is going to be, you know, Gary Vaynerchuk or Richard Branson or, you know, whoever. Like, those people have had to make incredible sacrifices in their life. Now, I think what's really been good is someone like Gary Vee, who I think oftentimes was misunderstood in his schedule. He takes 7 weeks of vacation a year. And that's a trade-off that he's made. He goes technology neutral on the weekends. And I bet none of you go technology neutral on the weekends, right? Like, nobody. And so I think that the trade-off he's been made is, during the week, I'm going to grind as hard as I possibly can. And on the weekends and during these 7 weeks of vacation, which most people haven't taken 7 weeks of vacation in 7 years, who are like playing this grind hustle game, you know, when you're at work, be at work. When you're home, be at home. Like, now is now. That just, the problem is we're never present in the moment that we're in. Yeah. And this is something that I, over the last 3 years, have worked on very, very hard. You know, my wife had a come to Jesus moment with me where she basically sat me down and said, look, like, when you're here, like, I know you work hard and enjoy it, but when you're here, you need to be here. Yeah. Exactly. And that was very eye-opening for me because I had never really thought about that. And it's tough to maybe, I didn't have the self-awareness at that time to recognize that. And it woke me up. And now I try to be very present in the place that I am. Like, I'm here with you now. I'm having this conversation with you. I'm not thinking about what's the next thing I have to do today. Oh, yeah. I have to do this thing over here. Oh, you know, I haven't paid this bill, or I have to go do this errand or whatever. I'm here with you. I'm giving you all of my attention, or at least I'm trying as hard as I can. I mean, it's not the easiest thing in the world, but, you know, and I think too often we're in a constant state of distraction. So it feels like our kids are interrupting our business lives because we only actually did an hour's worth of business, because the other half of the time we're either worrying about shit or having conversations we need to have, or thinking about things, or checking Facebook, or doing, you know, non-integral parts of our business. So yeah, we only did an hour's worth of work today, and now your kids are driving you nuts because you have to go pick them up. But if you had gotten 6 hours of really high quality work in and really focused during those 6 hours, then when you went and picked your kids up, you'd be ready to rock. And you know what I mean? So that's not an easy thing to do. If it's something that you think you have a problem with, you need to read, you need to practice, you need to talk to people about it. You need to make it a priority. It is hard. I'm 3 years into this journey and I still struggle with it, but I read books all the time about it. I try to meditate. I try to have moments of silence. I try to do things that I've learned only through reading, help you be present in the moment. And that has radically changed my perspective on what is possible to get done in a day and my happiness in these moments. Like 3 years ago, having to go pick my kids up at 3 today would have aggravated the shit out of me. Now I can't wait for it because I know, once we're done chatting or whatever, I have 2 or 3 things I need to get done. I'll get those things done because I'll focus in on them and then I'll go get my kids and it'll be great.
No, all wicked points because staying present always, right? I actually am horrible at social media. And so that's actually an advantage of mine. I turn off my phone or I don't even check email when I'm with my son. Like, I don't even watch TV, right? Like I'm present. I want to play games with him. I want to play sports, whatever it is, right? Like just do whatever makes you happy. And it takes time. Like, just practice, right? Like self-reflect and appreciate every moment you have because this world we're living in is so great, right? And you just got to enjoy the moment. And everything you said was awesome, man. So how do some of the listeners get a hold of you, your business, social media?
Yeah. So the best place to find me is ryanhanley.com. That's, basically if you get there, you'll get everywhere. But I'm on all the social channels. I really enjoy Twitter. I spend a lot of time on Twitter, but LinkedIn, Instagram. I do put a lot of video content out on YouTube. I really enjoy YouTube and have grown that platform. And intend to continue to grow it. So if you like video content, you like that kind of stuff, just check me out. I'm Ryan Hanley on YouTube. I think it's YouTube/Ryan M. Hanley. But anybody, or if you want to email me, just ryan@ryanhanley.com. Love getting emails. I respond to as many as I possibly can. And love, just answering questions for people and trying to help people move forward. So it's been a great pleasure to be on the show. I wish you nothing but success with the show and look forward to the episode coming out because I think you got a good thing here. I like the way you flow through your questions. It's nice. All
right. Well, thanks a lot, Ryan. I know you're busy. So I really want to thank you for being on our show and all the best on your business as well.
Yeah. Thanks very much, man. Be good.
Thank you.